Hey, welcome to the series of everything you need to know about Python in simplest possible way. In our previous videos, while discussing list, we have seen so many methods, so many important concepts regarding list, right? So in this video, we will be seeing some of the methods which are list element deletion methods, which are the methods which will be help us to delete the elements from the list. So let's go ahead and see what are the methods that we have in order to remove the elements from the list. So first we have pop, list we have remove, after that we have clear. We will be understanding one after the other how we can use those methods in order to delete the elements from the list. So let us start with pop. So how this pop works is that let's say when you have elements inside of a list, the recent element that is got added to the list, the element will be popped, that element will be deleted. So let us understand with some example. Let's say I have this particular list 1 here. I am taking very simple example in order to make you understand more clearly. So inside of this particular list, I am having 10, 20, 30 and 40. So these are the four elements that we have inside of this particular list 1. So now I will just print this particular list 1. So if I execute this, we are having four elements, what 10, 20, 30, 40, right? So now I will use this particular list 1, which is what we need to remove an element from this list, right? So I will use this particular pop here. So now if I simply execute this by using this particular pop, you can see we are getting an element which is nothing but 40, which means that this pop is removing an element which is at the end of this particular list, which is nothing but the recently added element to the list. We are getting this particular 40, right? So now if I print list 1 here, if I execute this, so you cannot see 40 here because the 40 is got popped up. So here we are getting 40, which means that the 40 is already being removed. So because of that reason, we cannot see the element 40 here. So let's say if I use this particular pop again one more time here, and if I execute this, later we are getting 30, right? So 30 is a recently added element. 30 element is having at the end, right? So because of that reason, we are getting this particular 30. And if I print the list 1 here, you can see only 10 and 20. 30 is got removed and 40 is also removed. Previously we have 10, 20, 30, 40. These elements 40 is removed by the first pop. Later in the second pop we have removed this particular 30. And if I use one more pop here, list1 dot pop, we can see we are getting 20. So if I print this particular list 1, why I'm doing is that there is a specific reason I will tell you later, and I'm using this particular list 1. Still we only have a single element here. So now if I use one more time this particular pop here, list 1 dot pop, if I execute this, we can see the element is coming. So now if I print this particular list 1, if I execute this, you can see we are getting an empty list because we are keeps removing the elements one after the other by using this particular pop. Let's say if I use this particular pop one more time, so I am using this particular list 1 and I am using this particular pop. And if I execute this, understand carefully, see carefully, we are getting an error pop from the empty list. So we are getting an index error which is saying pop from the empty list, which is nothing but it is telling you cannot remove an element from the empty list. So in order to make you understand only, I am removing all the elements one after the other. So I hope you can able to understand the usage of this particular pop. Pop will be removed the elements that is present at the end of the list. So whenever we are using this particular pop more and more times, the recent elements got removed. The elements at the end will be removed even though we don't specify any element here. So let's say I will take list here, list 1, and inside of this I will take 10 and 20. So I wanted to explain one more thing here. So because of that reason I am taking 10 and 20. let's say if I pass list1 dot pop, can I pass any element? I don't want to remove this particular 20. I want to remove this particular 10. So if I pass this particular 10 and if I execute this, we are seeing an error, pop index out of range. So it was telling this particular index 10 is not within this particular range. So let's say if I use index 0, so the 10 is having at the index 0, right? So because of that reason, I am using this particular index 0. If I execute this, you can able to see we are getting 10, which means this 10 is got removed from this particular list. And if I print this particular list 1, you can see we are only getting this particular 20. By this, you can able to understand by using this particular pop and by mentioning this particular index, you can able to remove the index regardless of the last element. Whatever the element that you wanted to remove, you can specify their index and you can able to remove them. So I hope you can able to understand the two cases here. By one case, which is if you pass simply this particular empty parenthesis by not passing anything, you can be removed the last element which is present in the list. So when you pass the index to this particular pop, whatever the index value that is having, the value will be get removed and you will get the remaining list. So I hope you can able to understand that. So let's say I wanted to mention this particular 10 itself. Previously we have seen by passing 10, right? That doesn't happen. So I wanted to pass the element. I don't know the specific index of the element. I will just pass the element. This particular deletion need to be happen. So in order to do that, we have one more method, which is nothing but remove. So to this remove, you can pass whatever the element that you wanted to delete. The deletion will be happening by this particular remove. So in order to make you understand, I will take one more list here. In this list, I will take 10, 20, 30, 40. We are having 10, 20, 30, 40. These are the four elements that we have inside of this particular list, right? So I will just print list 2 here and we are having the same elements. Let's say I wanted to delete this particular 20 here. So in order to do that, what I can do, I can remove this particular 20 by mentioning the remove method. So I will pass this particular 20 and if I execute this, you can able to see we are not getting anything, right? So now if I print this particular list 2 here and if I execute this, you can see the 20 element is got removed. So previously when we used this particular pop, it was returning an element, right? So it was returning. So here it was not returning. So the list itself will get modified. So you can see the difference also. Let's say I want to remove this particular 40. So I don't use pop and I don't use the index. I will use just this particular 40. So list2 dot remove. So by using this remove, by passing whatever the element that we wanted to remove, we can remove that. If I execute this, we have got executed. And if I print this particular list2, we can see the result, the 40 is got removed. We are left with the values 10 and 30. So let's say, can we make it as empty? So without passing this particular 40 or 20 or whatever the values that you wanted to delete, can we have the empty parenthesis? Can we use the empty call this particular list? So for that, I'm using this particular list 2 and I will simply mention this particular remove with nothing. So if I execute this, we are getting list.remove method takes exactly one argument, which is telling that you at least need to pass any one argument to this particular remove. That is what it is telling. So let's say, can I pass an element which is 50? So 50 is not present inside of this particular list, right? So still I am passing this particular 50 and if I execute this, you can see the result list.remove some element which is x. X is not in list. So you are getting an error saying this particular 50 is not present in this particular list. Because of that reason, we cannot delete it. So by this, you can able to understand one thing is that whenever you wanted to remove an element, you can pass the element will be removed. So whenever you are passing an element that is not present in the list, you will get an error which is nothing but the value error saying the element not present in the list. So I hope you can able to understand how we can remove an element by passing the element itself from the list. So let us go ahead and see one more method that we have, which is nothing but the clear. So what this clear does is that it will remove all the elements present inside of the list. Let's say, to make you understand, I will take an example. So in this list 3, I will be having the elements 10, 20, 30, 40. I am taking the same example again and again in order to make you understand simply only. So now what I will be doing is that I will take this particular list 3 dot clear. So after that, I will print this particular list 3. So in order to make you understand, I will print previous of this particular clear method. So here I will mention before so that you can able to understand more clearly. Before. So here I will mention after. So after. So now if I execute this, we are calling this particular clear method between this particular before and after. If I execute this, we can see the result. Before we are having the elements 10, 20, 30, 40. After calling this particular clear method, we don't have any elements at all in this particular list. We are having an empty list here. So I hope you can able to understand why we use this particular clear method. Clear method is used to clear all the elements that we have inside of a list. This will be very useful whenever we wanted to remove all the elements in a list and again we need to use the variable. Let's say we are having this particular list 3. I will be having these particular elements. So I wanted to remove all the elements and again I need to use this particular same name, which is nothing but the list 3. In such cases, we can use this particular clear method and reuse this particular variable that what we have used for a specific list. So I hope you can able to understand that. So I hope you can able to understand all the method that we have discussed in this video, which is nothing but pop. And pop is used to remove an element at the end of the list when we don't pass anything in the parentheses. When we pass anything, which is nothing but we need to pass index. When we pass index to this pop, the value at the particular at that index will be popped. So apart from that, when you wanted to pass the element itself, whatever the element that you wanted to remove, when you pass that element itself, in such case you need to use this particular remove method. So when you use this particular remove method by passing the element will be removed from the list. So when you pass the element that is not present in the list, in such case you will get an error, which is the element not in the list. So apart from that, when you wanted to delete all the elements present inside of a list, you can use clear method. By using this clear method, you can clear all the elements present inside of a list. I hope you can able to understand each of these methods and where and how you can use these methods effectively. And if you found this video interesting, hit a like button. In the next video, we will be discussing some of the methods that helps us to solve the list problems effectively. So thank you for watching this video. See you in the next one.